Good afternoon. I'm here with my friend Richárd Magasy, and we're going to review a Rolling Stones album this afternoon.
Excellent.
Called It's Only Rock and Roll by the Rolling Stones, released in 1974. So, and just before we, this is before we go and do battle on the tennis court, by the way, but we thought we'd talk some music first. So, I'm happy to say, well, I'm not happy, but anyway, I'll tell you that I came into this album, into owning this particular album, because Richárd kindly gave it to me. His father recently passed away, and this belonged to him. And it's an Indian pressing, which is quite interesting, and it's in a lot better condition than my UK pressing. So I don't know if you want to say a few words about. Is the plane gonna? So I don't know if you want to say a few words about how your father maybe came to own these albums, or.
Well, I don't know. I haven't really discussed it with him, but you know, he left back a bunch of records, a bunch of vinyls, and a couple of them I thought might be interesting to you. So that's why I gave it to you, because I know you're going to be taking care of them.
Yeah.
Well, so that's why.
Well, I did notice that this is an Indian pressing, and it's quite interesting in Hungary. Over the years that I've lived here, I picked up a number of Indian pressings and also Yugoslavian pressings, which I can understand more, the Yugoslavian one, because it was part of the communist bloc up until 89, 90. But the Indian connection, I really don't know.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery to me. I have no idea on that.
But as you can see, it's in good condition. A lot better condition and not faded at all. Nice, you can see the reds here, and
it was well kept.
I was going to show the Diamond Dogs, because this album cover is actually designed by the same person who designed the Diamond Dogs album cover of the same year, from David Bowie, so, which is kind of interesting. And so here you see the Stones walking down the steps to some majestic ballroom with all their fans idolizing them. It's a pretty good cover concept, not brilliant but not bad, and the back cover's nothing to write home about, is it?
No, it's not.
So
forgettable.
This is the first album produced by the Glimmer Twins, which is Mick and Keith. So exit Jimmy Miller, who produced all of their albums, I think, since Vegas Banquet, and so I think they just maybe got to the feeling Jimmy had outlasted his use in adding any value to the Stones. So from here on in, Mick and Keith tended to produce their albums either on their own or in conjunction with other people. Just a word or two to say about the musicianship on this album. Maybe I should show you the vinyl and put it in the shade. So here's the inner sleeve. No lyrics, and we'd had no lyrics on Goat's Head Soup or Exile, or Sticky Fingers, or Let It Bleed. I can't remember the Stones actually including lyrics in their albums. Maybe in latter days they did, but this during the first half of the 70s, no lyrics. And then nice pictures here of some of the musicians who helped out, such as Ian Stewart, the famous sixth member of the Stones who played piano, and Nicky Hopkins guesting on keyboards as well, Billy Preston, famous keyboard organist, and
yeah, none of the band members actually on the inner sleeve,
yeah,
which is pretty interesting.
Quite interesting. And then just quickly show the vinyl before it starts to warp. So this is the Indian vinyl, and it's in good condition, as I say, a little dusty, but I'm going to ask you to put this in the shade if you wouldn't mind, Richárd. Yeah. So a good array of musicians on this album. So any initial thoughts before we go through the tracks on how you think this album fits into their catalogue?
Yeah, I would say about the circumstances that it was issued in '74. It's the follow-up to their '73's Goat Head Soup album, and well, this period is generally considered by most critics is that it marked the end of the Stones' golden age. And they slipped into a decadence of rock star excess. I would probably have to agree with that to some extent. I would consider this as an album probably one of their low points in the 70s. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have its highlights, as we will later explain.
Yeah. Can you put this in the shade as well?
Sure.
Actually? So, another important fact to note about this album is it's the last one to feature Mick Taylor. So the Mick Taylor era, generally considered to be the strongest era, or up there with the best in terms of eras for the Stones, because Mick came in during the making of Let It Bleed, and then was there for Sticky Fingers, Exile, Goat's Head, and this album. Mick Taylor has claimed over the years that he co-wrote more than one of these tracks and received no credit from Mick and Keith, so this may have contributed to his unhappiness during this period. And anyway, the short of it is he left the band shortly after the making of this album and was replaced by Ronnie Wood. Not immediately, but Ronnie Wood appeared on Black and Blue and was a full-time member by the Some Girls album of '78. So certainly the end of an era in terms of the Mick Taylor era, but as Richard said, I think the magic had slightly started ebbing after Exile on Main Street, because Goat's Head Soup had some fine moments on it, but as an album it wasn't of the same quality, I didn't think, and neither is this one.
No, I wouldn't say. Although my personal opinion is that I'm not really a fan of Exile that much, but I think Sticky Fingers was like their peak, the Stones' peak, in terms of the 70s for sure, I would say, for me, but overall also. But Goat Head Soup was also, I mean, it had its highlights, but again. So I even like Goat Head Soup better than this album. I think it has more great tracks than this one.
Yeah, I think the three best tracks on Goat's Head Soup are better than anything on here, in my opinion.
Probably.
Heartbreaker, Angie, and Star Star.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's not that album we're here to talk about, it's this one. So let's go through the tracks. So the opener, I think, is one of your favourites, is it, Richard?
Yes, I think the album starts rather promising, in my opinion. So the first track is called "If You Can't Rock Me," and the song is about being a rock star, performing on stage and looking for getting jiggy with some of the girls in the audience. In other words, a classic, I don't know, cocky Stones song. I mean, the lyrics are great. It's not very sophisticated, but I think it's a nice song. It's got a good groove. I really like it. So actually, I'm quite surprised that they didn't play this song live that much, because it probably, because of the lyrics and because of the groove, it probably would have been a great opener for their live shows. But for some reason that didn't happen. Probably at all. What about
We
you,
have
John?
been really unlucky with the planes today. Maybe we escaped that last one just about. But yeah, If You Can't Rock Me, it's not my favourite. I mean, it does its job as a reasonably good opener, and it's better than Dancing with Mr. D, the opener from Goat's Head Soup.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
but I prefer. I mean, compared to like Brown Sugar as an opener or Rocks Off from Exile, it's not on the same league. So it's okay. It's okay. Then Ain't Too Proud to Beg is a cover, which comes next, and I actually discovered through the internet that they'd actually filmed a video of this song, so I watched it, but it was nothing to write home about the video.
I haven't
And,
even discovered that song on the Stones video. I mean, I checked the original, which is a Motown classic, originally performed by the Temptations, and but I don't know about you. My personal stance is that I don't think this song works really well with the Stones. I think the original is much better. Also, the original is shorter by a minute, at least to the version that I saw on YouTube, and it gets a little bit repetitive. in the end, I would say. Probably a forgettable song,
Yeah.
in my opinion, on the album.
I agree. Mick Taylor doesn't actually play on this one. I think they did a better cover on Some Girls, the Just My Imagination, Running Away With Me, which is a similar type Motown song. But anyway, this one, no, not really. And then we comes up to the title track, which for this there is a famous video which is widely known of, the Stones with the bubbles coming up.
In a tent.
And again, Mick Taylor's in the video, but he's not on the track. And this track originated from what I can ascertain from the Ron Wood sessions for his album, I've Got My Own Album to Do, which featured Mick and Keith and Willie Weeks and Andy Newmark. And I think David Bowie was involved as well. And then somewhere along the line they did a rough version of this song, and then the Stones kind of redid it. And it's become one of their sort of better known songs, and it's regularly performed in concert and the crowd sing along, but it's not
It's a
one
staple,
of my
yeah.
favourites, so you say the same, I think. Huh?
Yeah, I told John just the same, and I wouldn't rank it in like probably a top 20 Stones song. It's there. It's always been there. People, I listen to it, but it's probably not a song that I'm really eager to play it again or hear again.
Yeah. So Mick Taylor's not playing on this song, so Keith gets to do the lead work, which is quite nice, quite tasteful guitar. Then we get the first major ballad of the album, Till the Next Goodbye, which I think is kind of the Stones trying to do another Angie, if we're truthful about it. And they even performed a video again, which I hadn't seen until very recently, which is not quite as cheesy as the Angie video. They didn't have roses in their guitars or anything, but it was quite nice actually. I quite enjoy this song because it's not really that well known, and they haven't played it to death, and it's not played on the radio, and I quite like it. It's got Nicky Hopkins on piano, and you like this one?
Not that much.
All right.
I think, I agree that I kind of feel on this track that they were trying to produce another Angie, or this one, hey guys, let's write a ballad again. I would say it probably pales to Angie in all departments. I don't know. I mean, this song doesn't really tell me anything. It doesn't touch me. It makes me rather sleepy. So it's
Okay.
not much in it for me.
Okay, we'll agree to differ on this one.
Yeah,
I
it's
think it's a
fine.
nice tune, inoffensive and quite pleasant. And then the album finishes very strongly at side one, with Time Waits for No One, which is, again, not a well-known Stones track outside the main fan base. In terms of the Stones don't do it live that much, it's not played on the radio. I think it was featured on one compilation album, Sucking in the 70s, but more or less a hidden gem. And great guitar work from Mick Taylor, and especially the ascending note sequence that he does, which is to me reminiscent of what Led Zeppelin did the following year on In the Light from Physical Graffiti. But this is a great track, isn't it?
It's an excellent track. I would say this is one of the highlights of the album, and it's a hidden gem, I would say. So again, lyrics and melody are nicely woven together, and they effectively convey the meaning of the song and the spirit of the song. So it's really up there, I would say. And it's quite astonishing that they haven't included this song in most of their best of albums, or they haven't really played it that much live.
Maybe the reason they didn't play it live is because they didn't have Mick Taylor with them to play the superb
maybe.
guitar work. And this is one of the songs he definitely felt he co-wrote with Mick and Keith, because he said, he's been interviewed and he says Mick and Keith were not getting on very well during this period, and he helped out a lot. And Mick's response over the years in some interview was to say rather dismissively, Mick Taylor might have thrown in a couple of chords.
Yeah.
Which is, so we'll never know, I guess, but I wouldn't mind betting that Mick Taylor had quite a lot to do with this song. So we turn over to side two with Luxury. which is a kind of reggae style number. Again, Mick Taylor's not playing on this particular track, so he's only playing on 7 out of the 10 tracks, and so Keith is getting to play the main guitar riff and any lead stuff, and it's quite. I think the fans quite like this track. It's not a favourite of mine in particular. It's rather slow and ponderous, but not bad. What do you think?
I mean, it's not bad by any means, but it's not, really memorable, I would say. I've also read that this song has kind of a reggae vibe and all that. I mean, me personally, I couldn't really find anything reggae in this song. I mean, I think I recognize reggae when I hear it, but not too much for me on this track. Lyrics are a bit cliche. I don't know. I would say probably a B-side.
Yeah, not a great choice to open side 2, I don't think.
No, definitely not.
Whereas Dance Little Sister is a return to form in my opinion, and it's just one of 2 tracks which found its way onto Made in the Shade, which is the compilation from either later in 74 or 75 kind of time. And it's a great little track. I mean, it's not an all-time classic or anything, but it's got that great Stones kind of guitar riff, and it's got a sense of urgency about it, and Mick's singing it well, and I tend to think this is one of the better tracks on the album. Richard, you're going to disagree with me?
Well, no, not quite. I think it's not a bad track overall. I think it's got a solid, good underlying idea and a solid foundation. The guitar and the groove are really solid, but I think it could have been a better track if the guys worked a little bit more on this track. I think I have the feeling when I listen to this track that it's a little bit half-baked. It's a little bit too repetitive for me, the chorus, but it's definitely a good track. I wouldn't, I don't mind it at all. I just have the feeling that it was probably maybe a little bit rushed. So I don't know.
Yeah, but it's the kind of song I can imagine putting on at a party and everyone get up and
definitely
dance to it.
No,
So it works, I think,
yeah.
in that setting. And then we have the second major ballad of the album, If You Really Want to Be My Friend, with some glorious organ from Billy Preston and some glorious backing vocals from a group called Blue Magic. Really evocative backing vocals, and well, I personally love this track, and think Mick sings it well, and it's a nice ballad, and you're going to tell me it's forgettable.
It's not one of my favorites. Again, I think the melody is a little bit too mediocre, but again, it's for me. This song is a little bit similar to Till the Next Goodbye. It doesn't really touch me that much. I've listened to it a bunch of times all over and over again. With there was no chemistry between me and this song. That doesn't mean that it's a bad track at all, but I don't probably listen to it.
Not even Blue Magic backing vocals could lift it for you?
Not quite.
No? Okay.
Not quite.
All right, then we have Short and Curly's, which is a kind of throwaway song in my opinion. Stupid words about she's got you by the balls and stuff. It's okay. Musicianship's okay. Forgettable lyric, forgettable song really. I mean, anything to add?
Yeah, you summed up pretty well. I think it's probably a little bit of cliche idea, and because of, I mean, this song is like 2 minutes and 45 seconds. But still, I kind of feel, because of the repetitiveness, that it's still too long. I don't know.
Yeah.
So again, probably half.
The birds like it.
Yeah. Well, the birds agree with us.
Well, maybe they agree with us. Yeah. Hear, hear.
Yes.
So, album finishes with Fingerprint File, which is a great little groovy number with a good bass line from Bill Wyman, and it kind of reminded me of the last track on the Ron Wood album. I've got my own album to do with the track called Crotch Music, where Willie Weeks is giving his head on the bass, and there's similar kind of feel, but the difference being we've got Mick on vocals doing these evocative you know, good night, sleep tight kind of words. I mean, they're pretty meaningless, but it's quite atmospheric as a song. And as I say, good. Bill Wyman doesn't really get to play his bass too extravagantly on this album, but this is where he's probably making his best contribution. Although he's always a solid. Charlie and Bill are always the solid rhythm section behind the Stones, which sometimes gets overlooked. So I think this is a pretty good closer to the album.
Definitely, for me, this is the second highlight of the album. I think it's got a cool groove with elements of funk, and you know, Mick's voice is on fire in this one, I think, and the others are in their element too. So definitely a masterpiece, I would say. Most of the critics agree with this, on, you know, the opinion of this track. So yeah, it's a great finish, because you know, side B on the record, or like the last track on the CD, hasn't, you know, really been a good finish, but this one definitely is a good ending, I would say.
Okay, good stuff. So after this album would come Black and Blue, which was pretty decent. I probably prefer it to this one, and then the classic Some Girls came in '78. But over the longer term, I think one missed Mick Taylor's superb guitar work, but maybe at the time one didn't feel the loss as much as we did in subsequent decades. But any last comments, Richard?
Well, this album is the Stones probably not at their finest hour, but you know, if you're a Stones fan, you probably gotta have this record in your collection. If you're not a Stones fan, probably this is not a good place to start engaging in their music. But you know, it's worth a listen, definitely.
Yeah, it has its moments, and then rather mysteriously the sun just goes in as we finish the video.
Yeah.
We've escaped the planes for the last few minutes anyway. Thank you for watching.
Thanks.
See you next time.
Bye.